Today is officially the 100th day of school, and coming up in 1 month, the completion of that construction site is right behind me. I know there was a lot of celebration going on the first day of school. I'm not here to talk about that. It's also been a 100th day for me of reporting educational topics of this show. I mean, when I first started the show 5 years ago, I seen we were going to deal with a lot of issues going on, a lot of education topics, and I'm going to give people that voice. And so far, no one has had that voice. No one has had that chance to speak out yet. I mean, for years, there's been problems. There's been COVID. There's been threats in our schools. There's prank calls, especially the very latest. I mean, just yesterday I went to the intermediate to get some answers. And I'm going to use this side right here as if it were the intermediate. It may not be a big camera here, but I'm going to give you what I got. So, if you were here, this would be the elementary. And if you were to look on this side, this would be the curve. But this was a lockdown. And the students were in. But days later, the question is, who could have done this? Where were the police? There were a lot of hospitals and a lot of ambulances out there. So, what had happened was, this was my theory. Maybe the hospital van was parked on the side and the police cars in the parking spot. That's what I had the other theory. But then the students weren't in classrooms. Maybe that student who called 911 was locked in the bathroom. In the bathroom so long. We probably don't know. But the question is still being answered. Let's turn to COVID. Because I've had enough of people prank calling 911. I did a whole show on Wednesday about people prank calling 911, and it's a Class A misdemeanor. And if you keep doing it, you could spend months or maybe a year in jail and pay a lot of fines. So let's get off topic here from the 911 and let's get straight into COVID. In the state of Texas, there's 6.8 million plus 34,000. The deaths are 79,111 plus 224. In Oasis County, 85,556 plus 466. We're over 500. We're over 85,500. The deaths, over 1,300, 1,252 plus 2. That's 1,354 deaths. We had, now the positive tests, 44,497 positive tests, with 25% of the positive tests. As for hospitalization since Monday, people hospitalized were 147,841. We're close to 148 or 150,000. With people in ICU, we're over 25,000. Getting close to 26,000. As for the vaccinations, 20.1 million have had at least one dose. 17 million have been fully vaccinated. As for pediatric and ICU, 121. The available beds happening are 285. Adult hospitalization has been risen to almost at 7,000. The positive rate is 32%, with 16.8 million fully vaccinated and 19.9 million have been vaccinated. So, what's the difference? Well, it's between what you read on Google and to what the state health department reports. And to what the media reports. So, you'll be asking me, well, who do you believe? Well, one simple answer. It's all how you look. It's all how you look at it. If you listen to those 7 words, you would believe to what I have to. You would agree with me. What about our local schools here in Flower Bluff? Let's move on to yesterday. One high school student with 0 high school staff. 4 junior high students. It was supposed to be 3, but I crossed it out to 4, with 1 junior high staff, 1 intermediate staff. 1 intermediate student, 1 intermediate staff, 2 elementary, 0 elementary, 2 primary students, 0 primary staff, 2 ECC students, 1 ACC staff, 0 transportation, 1 school district. As for today, there's been 4 high school students who had COVID, 0 high school students, 3 junior high students, 1 junior high staff, 1 intermediate student, 1 intermediate staff, 2 elementary students, 0 elementary staff, 2 primary, 0 primary staff, 1 ACC student with 0 staff, 0 transportation, and 0 in the school district. That's great. We're continuing to follow those tips, and we're still making sure everyone's getting vaccinated and following these tips. And what I mean by that is you need to make sure that you have your mask on. It has to be at the bridge of the nose. If you have N95 masks, that's good. You're fighting against Omicron. I still got to invest in those N95s, which is a great thing for me. If you have those cloth masks, it may not work. Get the surgical mask with the wires. Social distance, 6 feet. Again, 6 feet. You have to be at least 6 feet to where I'm standing between you guys and right here. I'm 6 feet, but I'm already vaccinated, so that means I'm still fighting COVID. If you're riding transportation, it's basically the same thing. Masks, social distance. If you don't have a mask, they will supply a mask for you. Wash your hands, sanitize your hands. It is the biggest issue ever. Soap and water. If you're in class, disinfect your desks. It is not that hard. They have disinfectant wipes, they had paper towels, they have Lysol. It's not that simple. Just clean off your desk. It's not that hard. If you're under 2, no mask. If you have been diagnosed with COVID, follow to what the CDC says. Stay quarantined for a minimum of 5 days. After that, do a retest. If you have a medical condition, let them know. And if you don't have a mask, they will supply one for you. So we approach this 100 days of school, or it comes to an end actually, or it comes to an end. Many people may be vaccinated, but the cases may have been lower. But I think the total probably is for the schools has probably been like over 100. I didn't have time to write it down, but that's really some great news. Really good news. Okay, who was to blame for the Oklahoma City bombing? Who was to blame for the Idaho standoff? Who was to blame for the Waco standoff? And who was to blame? Who was to blame? And I really mean it again. Who was to blame for the Oxford school shooting? When we come back, the second lawsuit happening. You don't want to miss what's going to happen next. Please don't go away. Thank you. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we're behind the construction site of what's going to be probably the finished upstairs entrance to the varsity gym. I did this yesterday when I did this a few times over a month ago, to where the districts wanted to spend $250,000 on this. There was like $250,000. But there was a new catch to this. It is up to over $800,000. Over that amount, over $800,000. Coming up on Saturday, we'll tell you how much. We'll take you to that board meeting that happened last week, and we'll bring you up to speed. But the biggest one ever, we're turning now to Oxford. We're now number 2. There is a second lawsuit happening in this lawsuit. Now, let me give you the very latest on that lawsuit. If you've been watching the show, watching the media, you've been following up on that first lawsuit by Jeffrey Feiger. Well, right now there is the second lawsuit happening. This one is over $25,000. It's being filed by the names of Tate Myers' parents. In that first lawsuit, it was also filed by the surviving students. One of them got shot in the neck. There were 3 teachers in this. One of the 6 employees in this new lawsuit. This was filed by the new attorney. His name is Van Johnson. And this was filed yesterday at the press conference. If you were at the press conference in Oxford, you may have known what had happened. But there are now 3 teachers with the counselors there. The counselors were in violation of the Michigan Child Protection Law of 1975. That's what they violated. That is a good reason to sue the school district over violating the law. And the lawsuit seeks more than $25,000, but doesn't specify the amount that the plaintiffs were looking for. But there were 3 counselors by the name of Nicholas, Pam Fine, and Miss Hopkins, and 3 unarmed teachers. Now there may be a difference in this. 2 of the teachers did the same thing, but one of them was different. Let me break it down for you. 2 teachers reported to the office for what happened. There was a dead bird in there, and the teachers reported them for and reported for it. And the second one did the same thing. The 3rd teacher caught caught Ethan Crumbley watching a violent video. What was the violent video? We didn't know. We didn't know what violent video was he watching. And you may be saying there like, oh, cut this crap, you stop with this lawsuit. We already know it was Ethan Crumbley who brought the gun. We know the superintendent was blamed. That's for the first lawsuit. The very first lawsuit puts 2 people. Put 2 people at the top of this list. As for now, with the new lawsuit and the old lawsuit, that makes it 11 people. There was 11 people involved in the 2 lawsuits. If this gets taken to court, it'd be a great trial and won't miss, and it may be televised as a Court TV exclusive. And again, we'll bring you the very latest. And as for now, Ethan Crumbley is now put in the insanity court. But for now, his parents are in jail, and he's in jail. And our tax dollars are paying for him to be in a jail when he should have been in a juvenile corrections center. Why is that? Well, they want to charge him as an adult. That's basically the whole reason why this crap is happening. And you may have your theory, I may have my theory, everybody else is down to their opinion. I get it. I've been there, I've talked about what needs to be talked about. Everybody here from Michigan may have a different point of view. You may say Ethan Crumbley did. Well, yes, he did. You may blame the school district for not doing anything else, but they may have a plan. In that first lawsuit, the superintendent said it was false. And what about the principal? What did he say? He didn't say anything. What about this new lawsuit? What would the superintendent say? Well, he may not say anything. Not a damn thing. We don't know. Maybe the school district attorney, maybe the attorney for the school may be there. We'll never know. So, does all that as a mystery? Not yet. When this comes around, we'll bring you the very latest. But when you guys see this in black and white, I mean, this is a student problem. This is a student problem, not a school problem. He pulled the trigger. But this is a school problem, not a student problem. It is a school problem. So that right there is probably a school problem. That's a school problem. Again, that's a school problem. That's not a student problem. Stay with us. When we come back, who was to blame for these 3 incidences? Standoff in Idaho, the Branch Davidian compound, and the Oklahoma City bombing. There was one person in the Oklahoma City bombing who was a witness. Talked about it on Dateline. We'll give you his name when we return. Let's flash back to 1992. Remember this one. Ruby Ridge, Idaho. It's a hard place to find on the map. And as it turns out, an even harder place to find answers. You were there in 1992 or watching news back in 1992. You may remember Randy Reaver. He got shot. He was the one who had the weapons. He was the one who sold the weapons. He had a house, and he failed to show up to court. And for that, a something-day siege happened in Idaho between the FBI, and there were negotiations happening. And in '95, he was at the Senate. He was at the House subcommittee, and he wanted to find out who did this. Well, we now know. If you watch that Dateline video from back in 1995, you haven't watched it, the video will be up top. In that video, Tom Brokaw interviewed him and about what happened with that attorney. And also, there was the FBI. The FBI was involved in this. But one person from the FBI spoke out, and he retired with new protocols for shoot to kill. But in this case, they shot an unarmed woman, his wife, Manny's wife. In a future Give You a Break, a half-hour special on the siege at Ruby Bridge, before its 30th anniversary. Waco, Texas is next on the list. This was where David Koresh happened. And if you would have seen the Maury Povich episode back in November 1993, what that also appeared at the top, he was the one. He wasn't there. His mom was there, but she didn't want to speak because there were charges being pressed against her. And a lot of people were there. One person was there, and possibly a lot of people were upset about this, and there were probably some answers, like what had happened. Maybe it was a town hall meeting of Maury Povich, but there was the reporter who helped them during this time, and they blamed the reporter. The Houston Chronicle said on Nightline they did this, and the ATS wanted to thank them, so they said, okay, we'll send it to the station. And that's where we're at right now. And there was this new David Koresh who had a hotel for the survivors. He was going to write a book on it, but the profits were going to a legal team in this. Going to a legal team in this, a legal defense team. That's what we know so far. Finally, the Oklahoma City bombing. We knew it was the two people, Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols. But if you haven't heard, there was the third suspect in this case. In this case, Terry's brother, his name was James Nichols. If you don't know James Nichols, he owned a farm in Michigan. Why did they want to search him? Well, because of the receipt he bought. Fertilizer and oil tanks, probably. I don't remember watching the interview. I remember watching it, but I don't quite get the nooks and crannies of this. If you want to watch the interview for yourself to get me up to speed, top right-hand corner of your screen. In that interview with Chris Hansen, he denied. I mean, what had happened was federal agents were at his house in Decker, Michigan, and they searched him like fertilizer and dynamite. He said he used those things to pull out stumps and ditches. But there was one issue. If you recall back in 1998, that confidential informant, he told the government that James Nichols told him technology exists, build a mega bomb, a super bomb, or any other type of bomb. That's where we stand so far. Who do we blame in those 3 instances? The government. We blamed the government. We blame the government for all these 3 things. Would the government shoot an unarmed woman? Probably. Would the government burn innocent people in Waco? Possibly. Would Bill Clinton get on the phone and say, blow up a building and get this law passed? He'd probably do so. But when you want laws passed, that you gotta get passed, you have to create a situation. Bill Clinton was probably blamed. Janet Reno was probably blamed. But he did. The trial was moved to a separate state. And probably during that trial, both of them could face a death sentence. But there was one thing. Terry turned himself in probably after they found Timothy McVeigh. Or probably before. I have no idea. I wasn't even born in 1995, but that's the blame game for you guys. I hate when people blame the government for stuff like what they didn't even do. And just probably hours ago, there was a threat that happened, and this person was probably arrested for that threat. I'm not going to talk about it, but I'm going to give you an overview of the safety protocols that happened. The evacuation, this is an overview. Evacuation, lockdown, shelter in place, and release with care. Those are the proper steps. I didn't even read this to you because, again, we have to do it back at the studio. We have to. But I wanted to give you the very latest on what's been happening ever since Oxford and COVID. So now we know who was blamed. We blame the government. We blame the government for these 3 things. We blame the government for shooting an unarmed woman. We blame the government for burning innocent people in Waco. And we blame the government. We blame the government for what happened. And now we blame the superintendent, the principal, the 3 teachers, and the 3 counselors who instigated this thing. Back in a moment. Next week on the broadcast, who do we blame for all these school threats? The students and social media. I'll give you my take on that. And then tomorrow on Game Me Break Saturday, a look at 15 YouTube channels, YouTube people who have dropped out of school. You heard me. 15 YouTubers who have dropped out of school. Their reasons why, tomorrow. That's all for this edition of Game Me Break Friday. We'll see you again for Game Me Break Saturday night. For Fly Bluff and all of us here at YouTube, good night.